Today I want to share with you guys the backpacking gear items I would buy if I was starting my backpacking journey in 2022. Starting with the pack, this is the Gregory Stout pack, and there's a few different reasons why I think this is the best pack for a beginner backpacker. First of all, it's highly adjustable, so you can adjust the torso length as well as the hip belt width for a whole wide range of body sizes. The pack also comes in plus size models, so whatever size you are, the Gregory Stout is likely gonna be able to fit you. The Stout also carries weight very well. I found that I can carry up to 40 pounds very comfortably, and that's enough weight carrying ability that you're gonna be fine carrying all of the gear, food, and water that you're gonna need for up to a week-long trip. My partner Steph has been using the women's version of the Stout. It's called the Amber for years, and she's been loving it. She's been putting off buying a new pack because of how much she loved this pack. Even though it's a little bit on the heavy side, it works really well for her. Let's start off by taking a look at everything that I have stored on the outside of my pack. So starting in the big front mesh pocket here, the first thing at the top here is my rain gear. You want your rain gear very accessible because if it starts raining, you want to be able to just throw it on and be nice and dry. This is the Frog Togs rain jacket. It's a very affordable, lightweight rain jacket. You can also get rain pants with it. I'll have links to all this gear that I'm talking about today in the video description. Next up in here, we have my water filtration kit. So this is a bag that you scoop water into out of streams or lakes, and then you attach this water filter to that bag and then push the dirty water through the filter into whatever water bottle that you're using for the trip. This is the Platypus Quick Draw filter. I really like it because it's durable. It has a really good flow rate for water, and then it has these two caps on it so that you can store it inside your sleeping bag if it's a little bit colder at night. It's really important that if it's gonna be below freezing overnight, that you store your filter inside of your tent, inside of your sleep system with you so that your body's keeping it warm, because if the filter freezes, all the membranes inside of it that are filtering the water are gonna be rendered useless. I also have my poop kit in here. So I just have my poop kit stored in this freezer bag. I find freezer bags just work really well. So you'll see these a few times over the course of this video. And in here I have wet wipes, toilet paper, and then my trowel. This is the Vargo Dig Dig trowel. This will cut through anything. So regardless on where you're camping and what kind of trip you're going on, the Vargo Dig Dig trowel is gonna do it for you. I also have hand sanitizer in here, so it's good to sanitize your hands after going to the washroom. And then soap. Soap is way better than hand sanitizer for getting rid of any bacteria or viruses that are on your hands. So I highly recommend using soap after going number 2. That's everything on the front pouch here. So let's turn the pack around and we'll go over everything that I have in my side pockets. So on the right side pocket here, I have my water bottle. You can just pick up any water bottle that you want from the grocery store or from the gas station. I like water bottles with flip caps, and then I'll usually get 2 water bottles with 1 liter capacity. I also have my tent poles on this side. I'm actually going to be sharing 2 different tent options with you, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And then on the left side here, I have bear spray. So I'm in bear country, so it's really important to have bear spray with you. And then I have a sit pad. So this is just a foam pad that you put down onto whatever you're sitting on, and it just takes a little bit of pressure off your butt and makes things a little bit more comfortable. In the hip belt pockets, I keep a couple different things. In this side, I keep my snacks. And then in the right side, I have my Garmin InReach. So this is an SOS and satellite communication device. So if I get into trouble, I can press the SOS button, and that's gonna connect me with search and rescue so that help can be on its way. It's also very nice for keeping in touch with people back at home. You can check in with them, and it allows you to send messages to any email address or telephone number. In the brain of the pack up here, I keep some other items I want easy access to. So I have my sandwich for the day. I'm actually getting pretty hungry, so I think I'm gonna eat this right now. That was a good sandwich. Up here, I also have my ditty bag, just another freezer bag, Ziploc bag. And this just has a whole bunch of things that you need throughout the day, like your toothbrush, toothpaste, earplugs, any daily drugs that you need, as well as some people, depending on the length of your trip, will bring a battery bank and a bunch of cables to go with that. Then the last thing that I store on the outside of my pack, like I said, easy access on the outside, and that's my first aid kit. Really important to have a good first aid kit. This is one that I made myself. I'll have a link in the description to the video where I talk about everything that I have in my first aid kit. Diving into the inside of the pack, right at the top we have my camp sandals. These are just really lightweight foam sandals from Walmart. At the end of the day, it's really nice to take your shoes or your hiking boots off, let your feet air out and get the stink blown off. Then we have my cook kit right here, but let's take it over to the picnic table and take a more in-depth look. For the cook kit, we'll start off with the spoon. So this is just a titanium long-handled spoon. Having a spoon with a long handle is nice for freeze-dried meals because sometimes those bags can be a little bit deep, and it's nice to have the long-handled so you can just get right down to the bottom. For the stove, I recommend a tried and true Old Faithful stove. This is the MSR Pocket Rocket 2. I've had this one for many, many years. I know people have had these for decades, and it's been really reliable for them. It works well in wind, and it boils water really quickly. So this is a canister stove. So what that means is you need an isobutane canister. The stove just screws onto it. I like to use a mini Bic lighter in order to light the stove. So you just open up the valve, light it, and then there you go. You have a nice flame, and you can use that to boil water or to cook with. If you're just boiling water for yourself, I highly recommend the Toaks titanium pot. This is the 750 milliliter version. It's very lightweight as well as affordable. If you're gonna be boiling water for multiple people or wanna cook inside the pot, then I recommend the GSI Halulite 1.8 liter boiler pot. So this is a big pot, 1.8 liters. So you can boil enough water for 3, maybe 4 people in here for freeze-dried meals, or it's big enough that you can cook it. After the cook kit, we have tent stakes right here for setting up the tent. And then we have the 2 tents. But like I said, we're gonna be getting into the tents a little bit later. And then after that, we got my trash compactor bag. So I use a pack liner, either a trash compactor bag or a Nyloflume liner, in order to line my pack and make it waterproof. So I put everything that I want to stay dry inside this bag, I twist it up, and then tuck that end down the side, and that's going to do a very good job of keeping everything dry without having to use a ton of dry bags. Then right at the top here, I have my clothing, and I just have it in this stuff sack, just a random stuff sack that I have. You can also keep your clothing loose inside the dry bag, that's no problem, but you don't need to really be going and spending tons of money on a bunch of bags, dry bags and stuff sacks in order to store your clothes. Less is better with stuff sacks because they actually add up in weight pretty quickly. I'm not going to go over all the clothing that I have in here, but there's a few that I want to talk about because I get questions about these all the time. And the first question is, how many pairs of underwear and socks do I bring on a backpacking trip? And no matter how long the trip is, I can be on an overnighter or a trip that's 36 days long like I did with the Great Divide Trail, and I'd still only bring 2 pairs of underwear and 2 pairs of socks. I like to alternate 1 pair of underwear, 1 pair of socks, and then the other pair the next day. And then as much as possible, ideally daily, I'll wash my socks and underwear from the day before and then dry them on my pack over the course of the day. The other item I want to talk about is a jacket. Having some sort of puffy jacket as insulation for your upper body is really important because if it gets cold out, you're gonna want this in order to stay warm. As well, if you get into an emergency situation or the temperatures drop below what you think they are, or if your sleep system is just not performing as well, then you can throw this on and add a lot of warmth to your body. This is the Decathlon Trek 100 down jacket. It's a very lightweight jacket, but also very affordable and well put together. It's gonna be a warm jacket for you at only $80 US. It doesn't break the bank. For my socks, I use Injinji toe socks. So these are synthetic socks that, in addition to just being a regular sock, you have little mini socks for each of your toes. And I find that this helps a lot with blisters as I'm hiking. As well, I highly recommend choosing synthetic layers for your hiking clothing because synthetic layers are gonna dry faster as well as be more durable. The sleep system that I would get if I was just starting off backpacking consists of a few different things. Starting with the sleeping pad, we have the Nemo Tensor sleeping pad. This is the 2022 version with an R value of 4.2. R value is just a measure of how warm a sleeping pad is going to keep you, and 4.2 is going to be good for a majority of people during spring, summer, and fall months. For the pillow, this is the Trekology 2.0 pillow. I think it's super important to have a pillow. A good night's sleep is going to make your days backpacking a lot more enjoyable, and the Trekology 2.0 has a few things going for it. First of all, it's very affordable at under $20. As well, I find it very comfortable. It has a nice soft, stretchy material to it, and the baffling system makes it very supportive. It doesn't feel like you're laying on a balloon. The main thing that the Trekology 2.0 has going for it though is this pad strap. So it has a strap that keeps the pillow locked onto the sleeping pad. So as you toss and turn over the course of the night, you're not gonna have to be chasing your pillow around the tent. For the sleep insulation, we have the Hammock Gear Econo Boro quilt. So I would go with a quilt over a sleeping bag if I was just starting off backpacking, because quilts I find are a lot more comfortable. You can toss and turn in a quilt and you're not gonna get all tangled up. They're gonna be warm enough for most people and they're gonna be lighter weight than a sleeping bag. The majority of people I know who switch from a sleeping bag to a quilt are super happy with quilts and not looking back at sleeping bags. The Hammock Gear Econo Boro is especially good for someone just getting into backpacking because it's very affordable, it's very easy to use, and then it's just a all-around quality quilt. It's really well put together. Now let's take a look at my first tent recommendation, this weird thing that we got going on behind me. The Durston X-Mid 2 tent might look a little intimidating to new backpackers, and that's because it doesn't look like a traditional tent. Instead of using tent poles in order to provide the structural support for the tent, it uses trekking poles instead. But there's a few really big benefits that trekking pole tents provide that I think make it worthwhile for beginner backpackers to consider. The first benefit is that the Durston X-Mid is very easy to set up. It only takes 4 tent pegs in order to set it up, 2 at one end and then 2 at the other end. A lot of traditional tents use 6 tent stakes. As well, as long as you're getting the tent stakes in the right location, all you need to do is then insert the trekking poles, raise them up, and your tent's gonna be set up really quickly. The second benefit is that it gives double duty to trekking poles, so you save a lot of weight over tents that are gonna have to have their own separate pole structure. The other big benefit with the X-Mid 2, for the weight, you get a ton of room. You can fit 2 25-inch wide sleeping pads inside of the X-Mid, and not many 2-person tents can do that. The third benefit has to do with the fact that while this tent is a double wall tent, so you have a mesh inner tent and then a sill poly outer fly, when you set up the tent, it's all as one. Having the tent go up all as one is a really big benefit if it's raining. Traditional tents, you have to set up the inner first, then the pole structure, and then put the fly over top of that. And as you're setting up the inner and putting the poles together, if it's raining out, you're gonna be getting that inner tent soaking wet. The way the Xmid is designed, as you're setting up the tent, the inner is protected by the outer fly. One of the big downsides with the Xmid 2 is availability. It's out of stock most of the time, and if you're not willing to wait for it to come in stock, then I have a couple other recommendations for you. If you're on a budget, then the Naturehite Monger 2 is a pretty good tent at a very reasonable price. But if you have a little bit more budget to spend, then I think the Big Agnes Tigerwall 2 is the way to go. It's just an all-around great tent for its weight, price, and durability and form and function. Go check out this video for my full in-depth review of the Xmid tent. I go over everything about the Xmid that you might have questions about, including all the pros and cons with this tent.